Remember how long a childhood summer afternoon used to last? It felt like an eternity. A single July day was a vast, sprawling landscape of hours where you could ride your bike, build a fort, stare at a beetle in the grass, get bored, unbored, and still have time left over before the streetlights came on. But now, you sit down at your desk on a Monday morning, you blink twice, and suddenly it's Friday afternoon. Entire months disappear into a gray, indistinguishable blur. New Year's resolutions feel like they were written 3 weeks ago, but the calendar insists it's already next year. We tend to dismiss this as just a standard byproduct of getting older. We shrug and say, time flies when you're busy. But it is not just a vague feeling, and it isn't an unchangeable law of physics. Your brain is actively, structurally compressing your timeline. There is a terrifying psychological phenomenon known to neuroscientists where a standard 2-hour block of your adult life can be perceived by your brain as less than 20 minutes of your childhood self. This is the 2-hour illusion. To understand why our lives are accelerating toward the finish line, we have to look inside the organic biological hard drive resting between our ears. Your brain doesn't actually care about the ticking of a mechanical clock. It measures time in something entirely different: information. Imagine your brain as a filmmaker editing a movie of your life. When you were a child, everything you experience is brand new. The texture of sand, the taste of a new fruit, the layout of a school hallway. Your brain has no pre-existing templates for these things. Because every stimulus is rich with novelty, the brain has to work incredibly hard to process it. It turns on high-definition recording mode. It writes massive amounts of dense data onto its memory drives. When you look back at that childhood summer afternoon, your brain reviews an enormous file size, packed with distinct, vivid frames. Because there is so much data to read, the retrospective perception is clear. That period of time must have been incredibly long. But as we age, a cruel psychological efficiency takes over. This is governed by a fundamental cognitive mechanism called neural adaptation. Your brain is an energy-saving machine. It hates doing unnecessary work. Once you have driven to work 1,000 times, scrolled past 10,000 similar social media feeds, and sat through 500 identical staff meetings, your brain stops recording. It says, I already know exactly what this is. No new data here. Instead of recording a rich, high-definition video file, the brain switches to a highly compressed format. It creates a tiny text file summary of your week. Woke up, sat at desk, ate sandwich, watched TV, went to sleep. Repeat 5 times. When you look back at that adult month at the end of the year, your brain opens a tiny, empty folder. There are no unique frames, no unexpected sights, and no novel sensations. Because there is almost zero data to process, your brain concludes nothing happened. Therefore, that month must have passed in a flash. This is the routine tax. Your brain punishes predictability by deleting your memories of it. By turning your daily existence into an automated, unconscious script, it robs you of the subjective length of your life. There is another mathematical horror at play here, first popularized by the philosopher Paul Janet. It's called the proportional theory of time. It states that our perception of a given period depends heavily on how much total life we have already lived to compare it against. When you are a 10-year-old child, a single year represents a staggering 10% of your entire worldly existence. That block of 12 months is a massive slice of your personal history cake. But when you reach 50 years old, that exact same 1-year block shrinks to a mere 2% of your lived experience. It is a tiny crumb of the cake. It feels short because it is being measured against a massive, decades-long backdrop of memories. As you get older, each passing day is mathematically worth less to your perception. The velocity of aging physically accelerates because our yardstick for measuring time is constantly stretching longer and longer. If proportional math and neural adaptation weren't enough, modern society has introduced a devastating digital variable that acts like a nitrous boost for time perception: the algorithmic infinite scroll. When you sit on your couch and scroll through short-form videos for 2 hours, you feel like you are consuming a high volume of information, but you are actually experiencing the ultimate form of hyper-compressed routine. The content formats are identical. The pacing is identical. The physical motion of your thumb is identical. Because there is no physical movement through space, no genuine novelty, and no real-world anchors, your brain treats those 2 hours as a completely empty event. You look up from your screen, notice the sun has gone down, and wonder where the evening went. The answer is that it went nowhere. Your brain simply refused to file it away as a memory. You have effectively programmed your cognitive engine to delete your own time. This brings us to the ultimate question. Can we slow down the clock? Can we dismantle the 2-hour illusion and regain the expansive, infinite afternoons of our childhood? The answer is a definitive yes, but it requires a conscious, aggressive war against comfort. If you want to stretch your perception of time, you must force your brain to record new data. You have to break neural adaptation by introducing deliberate, disruptive novelty into your routine. Take a completely different route to work. Order something you've never heard of on the menu. Learn an instrument that makes you feel clumsy. Travel somewhere that forces you to navigate an unfamiliar language. When you step outside your comfort zone, your brain wakes up from its automated slumber. It panics, turns off compression mode, and starts writing high-definition, heavy data files back to your memory bank. This is why a 1-week vacation to a foreign country often feels like it lasted for a month. Your brain was inundated with unique sights, unfamiliar smells, and distinct spatial navigation challenges. It was forced to build new cognitive maps. You cannot stop the mechanical progression of the calendar, nor can you alter the proportional math of aging. A year will always be a mathematically smaller slice of your history cake as you grow older. But you have complete control over the file format your brain uses to save your experiences. You can choose to live an automated life that zips past in an invisible blink, or you can choose to live an active life that burns deep into your timeline. Stop outsourcing your attention to the infinite scroll. Break the habits that turn your days into identical carbon copies. Put yourself in situations where your brain has to think, struggle, and learn. Time isn't actually speeding up. You're just letting your routine delete the frames. Turn the camera back on. Force your brain to record the details and make your 2 hours feel like an eternity once again.